Riding the Bus podcast. We're back. Another episode. Thanks for listening. Bennett Perry, David Washington, D-Wash. How's it going?
Salt and pepper. It's going great, man. Life is good.
Yeah.
Another day in paradise.
All right. I'm sure there was no sarcasm there whatsoever.
There's never any sarcasm when I say anything.
There's never any sarcasm when talking about Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
No. None. Yeah.
Happy, I don't know when this episode comes out. I guess it'll probably be a little bit from now, but we're recording around Kobe Day. So happy Kobe Day. For anyone that knows, Kobe was my favorite professional athlete growing up. Obviously very sad what happened. So 8/24, August 24th is Kobe Day. We remember Kobe. And yeah, it's my little Kobe thing.
Yeah. So we were, I guess in context, we were just talking about how I would absolutely dominate you in the rebounding game. And I was just gonna say,
allegedly.
There's on Instagram, on 8/24, there, obviously there was a bunch of wonderful content about, the greatness that was, that is Kobe's legacy. And one of my favorite videos that I saw was him like at the free throw line, like it was like Harden and somebody else on the Rockets trying to box him out, and he like grabs both of them, like pulls them together and like throws them aside, and then doesn't even go for the rebound. It's just like, yeah. Just I'm going to dominate.
His dominance.
I'm just dominating somebody at any given, like at every opportunity. I'm going to dominate somebody.
I got to be honest, going back to you saying that you would out-rebound me, I have no problem admitting that as a whole that you are the better basketball player. But I will be honest, I think the one area that I feel very confident against you is my rebounding abilities. So that is actually one area I don't think that you would win against me. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, no, and I wouldn't want you to feel any other way. I'd be so pissed if you were just like, I think you would get me. Like, no, dude, fuck that. We'll see.
Because I would obviously compete my ass off against you in anything, but I have no problem admitting that my style of play and your style of play in just a one-on-one game, I would say you're probably favored to win that. I think you're a better one-on-one style basketball player. I don't know if that means you're a better basketball player, but I would say while I would compete against you, I would expect you to probably beat me in one-on-one.
I would think that, like you guarding me on the perimeter would be a bit of an uphill battle for you. But
I'm gonna give you everything I got.
Tough matchup, but oh god, I know you're gonna make it difficult.
You've never had a kitchen sink thrown at you like I'm gonna throw at you. I saw some post about, I don't know if this is true, but I saw some post that Kobe Bryant had missed more shots than anyone in the history of the game, and it was talking about the takeaway from that is he was never afraid to miss. Well, I probably should have looked at if that was true or not. I'm sure it's somewhere up there. I mean, he took a lot of shots, but that was always the thing that I think people that didn't like Kobe, it was lost on them a little bit when talking about, how much he would shoot and stuff like that. And why I was such a fan of his, the Mamba mentality, his mentality of not being afraid to miss and, the shooters shoot and all those kind of cliche mantras or whatnot. But I always, found that to be interesting because I think it's kind of the same thing across sports is if you're going to be the best in everything, because I'm pretty sure like Peyton Manning I think is the all-time interceptions leader in football or something like that, and Tom Brady's up there. It's like if you're going to be the best, that means you're going to do it the longest, and when you do it the longest, like you're also probably going to lead some bad stats too, but that you can't worry about that, you can't think about that. So I don't know, when I think of Kobe, that's kind of the stuff that I think about and the mentality that I always tried to kind of take from him.
Mm-hmm. We had when I was with the Cardinals in spring, we would often have either guys on the big league team or Cardinals Hall of Famers, regular Hall of Famers come down and like talk to the minor league group. One of the guys, I'm so ashamed that I'm not 100% on this guy's name. I want to say his last name was Suter. But he's I want to say he's a closer with the Cardinals or a pitcher. He's a pitcher.
Right.
And he said something that was really cool where it was like, he first got to the big leagues. He was like, my goal is to, I think my goal is to get there. My goal is to like log an inning in the big leagues right at first. And then he said after that, my goal is to give up 100 home runs.
Yeah.
Because I know that if I'm here long enough to give up 100 home runs, like I've done pretty well.
Right. Because what
You
people
know,
don't realize is if you're actually not doing well and giving up a lot of home runs, they're not going to let you get to 100.
They're not going to let you get to 100. Yeah.
Like
And
100 comes near, like, deep into your career because you've been so successful. It's not that big of a deal when you give one up. If you're really like, if you give up a lot of home runs, you're not going to be up there. No, if you give up like 15 home runs in your first month when you're up there, all you're going to give up in your career is 15 home runs because
Right.
they're not going to let you keep pitching.
Right.
So
Yeah.
like that. That's kind of I think that's an interesting mindset too.
Yeah, and I think so many people, like the people you talk about that, didn't understand like the greatness in Kobe missing so many shots, is that like, yeah, there, you can't just plan to be successful and hope that, that you will be, and that, you probably won't be, because the way life works, the way sports work is like, you are going to get some shit thrown at you, and like how you get through that is, very, is more indicative of the person you are than what you do when you're, when shots are going in. So like, yeah, there's something super inspiring in watching Kobe miss like 10, 15 shots in a row and take the 16th one. I don't know if he ever got that high, but like, yeah, like that's absolutely beautiful.
Because, like, everyone talks about the last second shots and the buzzer beaters, and
He missed a
all that.
lot
It's
of
like,
those.
It's also like you don't get those unless you have the mindset that you're not afraid to miss those. Unless you take unless you have that mindset, hey, no matter what happens, I'm willing to put it on me. I'm willing to put it on my shoulders. Win or lose, like I'm willing to take the shot. Like, yeah, you don't get the ones that you make then unless you have the other ones.
Mm-hmm. Unless you're willing to go through that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
R.I.P. Kobe.
Yeah.
Man, you're
tough.
still missed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway,
moving
how's the season going? Any in Milwaukee? Any noteworthy things to happen recently?
Yeah. There's a few. So I guess first and foremost, we have found ourselves in a rough patch playing, as a team.
Okay.
I don't want to, rattle off the numbers. I'm not totally sure of them, but we got swept in our last road series, and we're back at home, and we just lost both games of the doubleheader, yesterday. It's August, and we're in the playoff race. We were in the lead of the playoff race. Now we're just in the playoff race. Which I don't know like how often you've felt that feeling, but it is it's a great time for people to panic.
Yes.
And I think for the most part the team is responding well. The guys we're playing very competitive baseball. There's not a lot of guys hanging their heads. There's not a lot of infighting or whatever. Guys are really going about their business, like kind of what we talked about with the Mamba mentality kind of thing. Guys are we're losing well. We're struggling well.
That's good.
So
that's important. That's important.
No, because like I said, like I think that's so much more important than like actually, especially when you like as a team when you are struggling, like that's so much more important than winning the actual games. It's like how you go about struggling.
Yeah.
So I think we're doing a good job of that. I'm very obviously still very confident in our group, and I think we're going to do great. What you're actually asking about, was recently in Kansas City. I received I thought it was a 3-game, and it turned out as a 2-game, which we'll get to that because that's pretty funny. I received a suspension from the league for I want to say it's an equipment violation. I was they don't let you throw things on the field and then just play the next day.
Times have changed, my friend.
Yeah, so I guess I'll just tell the story. Obviously, as a team, we'd been scuffling. I had been scuffling. Second stop in a tough road trip against two very good teams. attitude day for sure. Was having a rough day at the plate, and had a call, had a 3-1 call that did not go my way. All parties agreed that that it probably most time how do I say this? Most times the call would go my way.
All parties except for the umpire.
No. So the umpire later, and I want to say like the umpire in this instance was totally in the like. Everybody hates umpires, but like this guy handled himself very professionally. Okay. Got a call that I didn't like, and then got out on the next pitch. Was not happy about that. Went to at the end of the inning, went to relieve my frustrations on a trash can in the dugout. And of course, so like I kicked it, right? Because you don't want to like mess up your hands and stuff. So I kicked it, but that felt a little childish, and it didn't feel like it represented my level of anger in that moment. So I wanted to properly, demonstrate how I was feeling, which was to throw the trash can. The way that the trash can was set up in the dugout was that it was like kind of in a corner. So like to grab it and throw it would mean like I would have to turn and basically throw it blind. In the dugout, which can be a dangerous proposition, right? Because you have your fellow teammates in the dugout. You don't want to, the last thing you want to do when you're blowing up is hit somebody with something, because they don't deserve that. They didn't pop out for no reason. Like it's not their fault. So
that's as big of a no in clubhouse etiquette or in dugout etiquette as there is, right? Like. You take your frustration out, but you can't involve a teammate. You can't hit a teammate.
Don't make it somebody else's problem.
Right.
Yeah, so I went in the only direction with it that I that I saw clear, which was up out of the dugout, onto the field. Which honestly, like obviously, I recognized the implications of that. As soon as I did it, like I didn't like it wasn't like
trash, man.
Yeah. Like I knew exactly what it looked like. Yeah, it was like, and it wasn't it like it truly like I'm not saying that tongue in cheek. Like it truly wasn't my intention to be like this is what I think of you, Mr. Umpire. Like it really wasn't that. It was really just that like this is where it ended up going when I threw it. And I think probably the funniest part to me about it is that like no one saw it initially. Because it was in between innings, nobody was looking in our dugout, like, so this trash can just plops onto the field, and it's just sitting there for like low-key a minute. So like, and I'm not going to clean it up because I'm still pissed, right? So like, I'm like, oh, all right, guess that's done. So I go and grab my glove and like start running onto the field for defense. And like that's like I'm 2 steps out of the dugout, and that's when the home plate umpire turns and like sees the trash can and like makes eye contact with me. And it's like, did you throw that trash can? I'm like, it's just like, yeah. It's like you're out of here.
You're out of here.
You got to go for that. And then of course hilarious. And then so of course like I was like, well now I got to get my 2 cents, and I and I go like, you give him in the other batter's box. He goes, look, David, I missed it. I missed the call. Man. I missed the call. I'm human, and I'm just like. And honestly, this is a guy like we had conversations before, like at first, and he's always like, we like joke back and forth, he like honestly that game he hadn't blown a lot of calls, so there wasn't a lot of like earlier precedent to be upset. It really was just like one missed call. So like in that instant, I realized like, yeah, this is 100% just me. And I'm just like,
great move by that umpire.
Played to perfection, and I was just like, I gave him like, don't give me that, and and then just kind of walked off because like I didn't really like. I'm not good at yelling at people in their face anyway, especially if I feel like I don't have a point to make. Like I'm not good at just being like, I'm mad and I'm gonna take it out on you. Like I don't have a lot of that in me. So like, yeah, like it was. I feel bad that I got tossed, but I also feel bad that I wasn't able to give the fans more of a show.
Right.
So yeah, I just kind of turned around and grabbed my stuff and walked off the field. To the tune of I think my heart will go on from Titanic.
Oh, is that what they played?
It's like it's like the dugout. Like we're in the left the third base side dugout, and like the clubhouses are like on like above the concourse, like in right field. So it's a long hike. And yeah, they had I guess they had the camera on me at least for most of the walk and played the song, and I appreciate it.
Yeah. I feel like a popular one is "Hit the Road, Jack."
Hit the Road, Jack.
When somebody gets thrown out. Hit the road, Jack.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
I'm trying to think. What do we play?
A little singing for our listeners.
Yeah. So they ended up hitting me with a 2-game. A 2-game suspension. I don't know if I was told something different or if information changed or if I just heard wrong, but I could have sworn that it was 3 games.
Interesting. But you didn't appeal it or anything like that.
I didn't appeal it. I was already like I said, I didn't and I guess the umpire afterwards, like according to him, like he like reached out to the league and was like, look, I really zooed that one, and I don't think it should be that bad. Which I appreciate, but I mean, it's my first I've had 3 ejections in my career, and it's the first one that I felt like I completely deserved.
Right. That's what it sounds like to me too. So a couple things. Yeah. One, biggest takeaway is the way the umpire handled that, and I think is such a like if you're yelling at someone or you're mad at someone over something, and they just right off the bat go, yeah, my bad, like I fucked up. It just neutralizes everything. Like you can't then like say anything off that. Like
yeah.
So and rarely do you get an umpire to do that, right? Like an umpire, either they won't say anything back, but they'll very rarely be like, yeah, that was my bad, I missed that one. Mm-hmm. So like you going to get mad at him and be like, yeah, I messed up, I'm human, David. It's just like, oh man, like yeah, I can't say anything, and it's kind of like I feel like more umpires should do that. I don't think I've ever seen an umpire. Dude, I've had one where like occasionally if I've thought the umpire wasn't doing good, like in between innings as I'm walking off, if it happens to be where I'm passing him, I'll be like, hey, where'd you have that one? Or hey, I think that's a strike. And like one time maybe someone was like, yeah, you're right, that's my bad, just like in passing, never when I was like giving it to someone. Like normally they're like, no, that's a ball, like I had that the whole way. Like they kind of fight you over it, and that's where the arguments take off. So the idea of someone's like, yeah, I messed up.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you can throw a trash can at me.
right.
So my second thing, my question is, the entire time I was thinking of, because obviously you're not going to pick up the trash can. Who picked up the trash can?
That's such a good
Who
question.
got the trash can off the field?
I
don't know the answer to that? Damn, that's all I wanted to know.
I don't know the answer to that. Yeah.
I'm assuming I cared about.
We had we had like a security detail, like a police security detail in the dugout. Maybe he did it. Maybe the trainer. She's always close to that part of the dugout.
That's tough.
Yeah, I don't know. It wasn't me. It wasn't.
Of course.
And not. and look. As much as like I hate to inconvenience somebody in that way, like it can't be you. Like you can't be the one.
Right.
Once you do that, to then go like, okay, my bad. You have to stand by what you've done and how the anger level that you've shown.
Right. But it also can't be the person that the anger is towards. So that's where it kind of creates this interesting thing. Is that means somebody that had nothing to do with it has to clean this up.
One of the worst ones is when it's a point of etiquette that people try to not let happen, but like when like a guy gets out at first, like to end an inning or something, and he like throws his helmet and gloves and then like starts walking out on the field, and then like the first base coach has to like, well, I guess I'll pick it up. And It's like, yeah. And it's like, that wasn't his fault, and that's always a terrible look.
My understanding, so for people that don't know, when you're an indie ball and you're a starting pitcher, that means the days you're not pitching, you got to coach first. Right. So you're a pitcher / first base coach. And I remember it was always talked about, and what's the etiquette of the first base coach in that situation where a guy kind of throws his stuff. And I was always under the assumption the first base coach goes, okay, then I'm not picking it up. Right. And if the first base coach doesn't pick it up and the player doesn't pick it up and the umpire's not going to pick it up, my question was always like, well, who picks it up? So it's got to get off the field.
Yeah.
And then it's
if you have a bat boy, right?
Right. But I was like maybe on a team where like one of the, you just have one of those guys who's a position player that just, wants everyone to be happy. And it's just like, fine, I'll just do it. I'll just get it. And it's like, yeah, you had nothing to do with this. I always felt bad. But at the same time, when I was first base coach, I maybe had that once or twice where someone threw their stuff. I was like, yeah, I'm not picking up your shit after you threw it. No one understands, having an outburst, more than me, but I'm not picking up your stuff. I'm walking off. And
I'm not judging you for it, but also I'm not, that's not my job.
Yeah.
On the,
I was hoping that there was an answer of who picked up the trash can, but.
Yeah, I wish there would be. On a more serious note, something that I'm learning before this incident, something that I kind of started to become more aware of is that like I've always kind of just had this policy of like, don't talk to the umpires, like right. Like you have a problem, just keep it to yourself. And what I've learned as I've gotten older is that that's not like 100% the best way to do it. Because like what happens in my instance is I lose out on the ability to like properly like express my frustration. Right? Like there's a way to say like I don't like that and not get thrown out or not, right. make the umpire your enemy. Like there's a way to express these things. And if like there's people that are really good at just like talking to umpires and building that relationship. Right. And you can kind of avoid a situation like that or like, And also that like sometimes like as, especially now that I'm, like kind of moving into the part of my career where I'm expected to be more of like an example setter, like there's times where like you just have to get like you have to get the ass and like kind of talk shit to the umpires, like like you have like, and it can't always be from the dugout. Like sometimes it has to be like on the field. You have to let them know how you feel. And I will say, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I just want to say to that, like, I agree with you. Like there's many times in these situations where, if you took the approach of just like talking to the umpire and just kind of explain your point, like it would go a lot better. The problem is when you're like in the heat of battle and you have this adrenaline going and you're playing and obviously you care so much and you're competing, it's hard to kind of shut that down and get to that point. You just kind of fire it off. Because I was going to say what I've noticed in just my limited time coaching is like it's a lot easier for me like as like the coach in a situation to like go up and talk to the umpire and tell him what I think when I'm not like as affected by it because I'm not playing in it. So I think that's where it's just like the guys that are able to do that, that's great. But it's one of those things where like anytime I've had an issue with an umpire, like later after the game or like the next day, obviously when I'm cooled down, like yeah, I could have a conversation with that person and easily explain. But like in the moment, it's like I got the fire going. It's hard. It's hard not to just kind of explode on them, knowing full well that that's not going to accomplish anything. Right, yelling at him and whatnot's not going to accomplish anything. Because there are a lot of cases where I've had a couple cases like what I was talking about, where every once in a while, like I'm walking off the mound in between inning, and I'll just be like, "Hey, man, where do you got that pitch?" Or he'll tell me, I'm like, "Hey, I'm just letting you know the way I'm trying to attack these guys. Like, I don't think that's off. Like, can you just stay with that a little bit longer? I don't think that's off the plate or something like that." And usually that's received pretty well. Right. I let them know, "What the fuck are you doing? Where the fuck's that pitch?" Like that's not getting you any calls, and vice versa. So. It's one of those where I agree with you. It would definitely go better if you could just kind of take a step back and talk to them. But like as you're saying, it sounds like you're saying, screw that. Like sometimes you have to kind of motherfuck them and let them know, almost make them feel bad.
Is that what you're trying to say?
Well, no. So what this is what I've realized, and I'm talking about myself, hoping that like maybe somebody listening to this goes through something similar and understands it. Like the idea of like not saying anything bad to the umpires, like the dark side of it for me, especially me being somebody that doesn't like direct confrontation, is it turns into me like getting back in the dugout and then just yelling from the dugout.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which, like, obviously everybody does that from time to time. But it's like, if you're like, and I realize this is something that I just don't like about like how I play the game, is that like I'm always nice in the box, and then I'm an asshole in the dugout. You know what I mean? And it's like it would be better if I was like sometimes an asshole in the box, you know, and like less of an asshole in the dugout, but like also sometimes an asshole in the dugout, and then like also sometimes nice in the box too, but like not just having it be like, because then it's like fake. Right. You know what I mean? Because then like the nice in the box thing is just fake if all you're gonna do is motherfuck people in the dugout.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like if I was able to kind of like merge those two things a little bit, like I think the overall experience, and also just like for me it's just like, yeah, like if I caught on like that, like, you know, that was somebody's MO, like I would be like, yeah, it's not something I would like admire about that person. That like, oh yeah, you never say anything until you get in the dugout where like, you know, you're not going to get thrown out.
It's kind of similar, you know, it's almost like similar, you know, say it to my face.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Or, you know, or kind of the more played out version of, you know, how people are willing to say things about someone or to them, you know, through a text, you know, that they wouldn't say to their face. Where it's if you were just, you know, standing in front of them, like, no, I'm going to tell you exactly how I feel. I'm not going to like mumble it, you know, from the dugout or whatnot.
Yeah. Like, and
there's a little bit more honor to that.
There's whether or not they like it, they can respect that a little bit more.
Right.
And
one question I forgot to ask you though about the trash can incident that I just remembered is the idea that like you had said that nobody really saw you do it. So like, what would have happened if he was like, "Did you throw that trash can on the field?" And you was like, "No, that wasn't me. Like, I don't know what happened."
It's hilarious to think about.
Like what would have happened?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe like, well, could you? There would probably like, I think he knew. Like I think he knew.
Right.
Maybe he was giving me an out. Maybe he was like, I know you did that, but if you say you didn't, we can overlook that. Like, you know what I mean?
Well, yeah, he can't throw you out of a game if he didn't see you do something.
Well, right. No, but I'm thinking like, look, like almost like and I'm probably giving him too much credit here, but optimistically thinking, like, if he was like, look, I know you did that. And I know it was out of frustration, and like if you told me you didn't, essentially saying like I didn't mean it,
right?
Then I will act like I didn't see it, and we can move on with our lives. I don't know if that's what would happen, but I'm saying like maybe that was the out he was giving me, where like, yeah, if I go, then he goes, well, can you put it back in the dugout, please? And I go, all right. And
would
then,
you have done that?
we go,
had he said,
no. I couldn't back away from that. Like I couldn't do that and then act like I didn't. Like I wouldn't be able to sleep at night.
Right. Oh man, it's just such a funny visual for me.
Yeah.
Can I, switching gears, can I ask you, did you see this video, maybe you saw it because it was at the Steelers game, of this guy who had gotten into a confrontation in the stands with this woman and I'm assuming he's her husband or some sort of companion.
The guy who was with her, apparently. I did see this video.
Yeah. Can I get your thoughts on this? Because I've seen a lot of what people are saying. And for I guess people that didn't see this video, there's a video of it's becoming more popular. You're seeing now that fans are back in the stadiums, that there's more altercations during these football games and sporting events, which I'll never understand, but it's nor here nor there. And it was one man, and he was in a confrontation with a woman who at the time when it started, the guy wasn't in the picture, and the woman ends up slapping him in the face because of the confrontation, and the guy goes ham on both these people. Just beats the shit out of them.
So from what I saw,
that's essentially what the video is, and there's a lot of opinions on it. I just kind of want to get your take on it.
So it looked like from the video that the man did, like, okay, the woman slapped the guy first. Like, I think that's, you know, first and foremost, the guy was like, don't touch me. Then she slaps him. It looks like he might have thrown one at the girl. And it
You're saying
looks
first?
no. I'm saying like after he got slapped.
Oh, absolutely.
Like right after he got slapped. Yeah, like so it looks like he might have thrown a punch or a slap back at the woman, which obviously
that's kind of what I'm talking. That's what I want to take on. That's
so I don't. Yeah. So I don't like. Obviously, I don't condone hitting women.
Right.
I'm willing in that instance to like not say it's okay. Like I'm not saying it's okay, but I will say that it looked more reactionary than like I'm going to beat this girl's ass, because it looked like after that he looked kind of like, well, what do I actually do? Because that's not the move. And then that's when it looked like he turned to the guy and started like fighting the guy.
Right.
I would say if I was to I don't know, like who I'm looking at in that as like, you need to do better, I would say the guy that's with the woman. I think
Really interesting.
Yeah, I like, not like on some like you need to control your woman, like, but like you see like your person or whatever is like whatever, like, whatever was said. I don't know what started it. I don't know. Like we got this video in the middle, right? So we don't know what was happening. But like you see that this is a verbal altercation between your woman and a man, and it's getting pretty close to physicality. Like I'm assuming you don't know this man. Like you don't know that. Like you don't know
That'd be
that.
better if they were like all super close though.
Right. Yeah, it turned out they were all. This is just what they do.
The three of them came together. So
yeah, and left together. But like no,
he
like,
went to the hospital.
I think he got knocked out, but
he got knocked the fuck out.
He did, right?
Yeah, big time.
Yeah,
Big time.
yeah. So like, I think like for better or worse, like whatever, like whether you feel like you need to swing on this guy, or you just need to play peacemaker. Like I would say, like whatever you do, you need to be in that, right? Almost like a manager who needs to like step in front of his star player to get tossed so that he doesn't get tossed. Yeah. Right? Very similar to that thing. I love bringing these things back to baseball.
Yeah.
You have to. Yeah, you have to get in there. You have to.
He got in there. You just saying he got there a little late.
I don't even, dude. He barely got in there. Like he I tried. I feel like him get like he got punched, and that's when he got in there. You know what I mean? I didn't watch this video like right before, so like I'd have to go back and watch it. From what I remember, like it honestly looked like the dude like started to get in a fight with a girl, realized that that's not okay, and then turned and got in a fight with the dude. But it wasn't like the dude like stepped up and like, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. So that's So like if I'm assigning blame to anybody, that's who I'm going with.
All right, so I'll kind of take the other side of this. From what I saw, it obviously started. There was like a little bit of a shove from the guy that was in the altercation with the girl, and saying, "Don't like get your hands off me." The way the camera angle was, you couldn't really see much, but assuming that she was putting her hands on him, that's what he was reacting to.
Right.
And your point about the guy, I hear what you're saying about the guy, but I have to think that he's thinking there's no way she's just going to slap this guy in the face. Like, how dumb you'd have to be to slap this guy in the face. So I mean, you might be like, okay, they're in an altercation, yeah, ideally be like, hey honey, let's get out of here, like this is stupid, like why are we even arguing with this guy or whatnot. But like, I don't think anyone's just assuming that this woman's going to slap the guy in the face. I think the guy who got hit's reaction when he turned to the guy is that, I don't know if you've ever been in a situation where you've been slapped in the face by a woman. I can say I have, and it is a very interesting reaction, because as I don't know how to put it, but I was going to say the reaction to getting hit in the face
is to hit someone back in the face,
right? And in a situation
or to run,
right? Okay. I would say for me, I get hit in the face. My reaction is to then hit somebody in the face.
Right.
So the weird
point
thing
is like it's fight or flight. Yeah.
Right. But the weird thing is, obviously, when it's a woman, is okay. I don't think you should ever hit a woman. I don't ever condone that. I don't. So like, it is a weird reaction of like, I have to hit somebody, or
Where do
like
I go with
because it's not
this?
even
Yeah.
because when you get hit in the face, the thinking goes out the window. You know, I'm not like, okay, let me think about this rationally. It's just like, oh shit, I just got hit in the face. Who do I hit? So I think that's where he kind of first went almost to the guy. He's like, well, you're obviously with this person. I got to hit somebody, so I'm going to hit you. Obviously, the woman was still part of it. I think he punched her in the face a couple times, which obviously the reason I brought it up is that the discussion that I'm seeing is obviously it's kind of a, you know, it's a tough one with a lot of, I think, gray area, because obviously you should never hit a woman, but in a situation where it's like, well, you know, then in that sense, then a woman should never hit a man in the face, because if you don't, I just across the board, if you don't want to get the best way not to get hit in the face is not to hit somebody in the face.
I think, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how the legal system works, but like, or in this instance, but like, I gotta assume at some point, if you are being assaulted, you are allowed to defend yourself, regardless of who you're defending yourself against.
Right.
So like, yeah, like I think once you're hit, like whatever, however society looks at it, like there's how I look at it, but like, yeah, like you are allowed to defend yourself. How you do it, whatever, can be judged, whatever. But you know, you're not like, no one's. I don't think you can look at this person and be like, oh, I should have just stood there and got hit in the face. Like, yeah, I don't know.
Well, I just you were saying like, who do you put the most on? You were putting on that woman's companion. I don't know the relation to. They might have been brother and sister, for all I know.
No idea.
Yeah, for me, it's all on the woman. For me, I'm all on the instigator. I'm not going to blame somebody. Now, would I be like, listen, I don't think you should ever. I have no problem saying, you know, if he was my friend, I'd be like, hey, you shouldn't have hit her, you know. Yeah. And ideally you don't. But also, listen, I understand. You get hit in the face, I mean, kind of all bets are off.
Right.
I don't think it's ever okay to instigate that, and then whatever happens after that, you got that's the consequence for instigating a fight.
Yeah, so let me make this clear. I don't condone the woman's behavior at all either.
Right.
Like I don't I'm not condoning the incident. Like, right, like it's, you know, it's not what we want to see. But I'm saying, like, to me, it's obvious the woman was acting irrationally.
Right.
Whether, you know, again, I'll make this point again. Whether something happened before the video started that, like, you know, that seems a little, you know, makes it, you know, more understandable for her to be irrational. Like, you know, maybe. But clearly she's acting irrationally. And I'm saying, out of the, like, you have two people that are in a heated verbal altercation. You're not gonna, like, I'm not asking for rational thought out of those two people. You know what I'm saying? Like, right. like now that it's all happened, we can go back and say, yeah, you shouldn't have done. Neither of you should have done the things that you did, but you were both acting irrationally, right? But you have a person sitting to the side who's not in it, like who you know, is rational enough to not be in the altercation. Yeah. Right, like to me, if you're that guy and your female companion is in that heated of an altercation with a man alone, let alone a large man, like, right, you can see where this is, like, you can see where this, like, is, like, will probably not resolve itself well, right? Yeah. Like, and probably not peacefully, like, we, you know, like, you know, these things tend to, you know, turn into violence. Yeah, like just in the sense of protecting your people, like, you know, like, you have to, right? You have to say, like, I'm gonna step up and, like, either diffuse or take or you know, or get in the fight instead. But you can't just sit there and let a fight break out between your female companion and a guy.
Yeah.
Like, that's not, yeah.
Yeah, what you're expected to do in that situation when you're the guy is, yeah, you're supposed to step in, and because obviously it's not that, you know, that's your woman or you need to even protect. It's just the idea that no woman should ever be struck by a man. So if I step in, I'm enhancing the fact that's not going to happen.
I can make
if someone's
sure
going to get hit,
happen.
It's going to be me.
Yeah.
But I also understand, because that's the case, there are some guys where maybe the situation is like, these two have been together, and every time they go out, this girl is constantly causing problems, and this guy's got to step in for her. And he was like, you know what? I'm done. I'm done with this shit. You're gonna have to deal with this shit yourself.
He's lost like 5 fights this month.
Yeah.
all that,
I'm
and she
of
started
getting my
all
ass
of them.
beat. I'm tired of getting my ass beat because you can't go to a sporting event and just have a good time.
Yeah.
You always
Yeah.
got to start shit. So maybe that's what happened. I don't know.
And
so,
then look, and you know what? If that's the case, and again, if we don't know these people, if that's the case, then it's still your fault because you're still going to sporting events with this person.
right. Have you ever gotten a girl you were dating or something like that to volunteer you for a fight?
No. I can't think of a time where it was even close. Honestly,
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever been with somebody like and had her like get into it with somebody. Like I don't.
Right.
Or if she was, it was like just like little comments, and it's like knock it off. Hey, stop. You know, like
Yeah,
But,
I had
yeah, no.
one. I had one time, and it was interesting because we weren't really like it wasn't like we were boyfriend and girlfriend. We were, I would say we were dating, but we weren't like we were out. I think we were in like PB, here in San Diego, like out with like some friends, and it was a situation where part of it is one, I didn't like being volunteered for the fight because when I go out, I don't want to fight. I don't really ever want to fight. I don't enjoy fighting. I don't understand people that do. In that situation, like going out and like being like, I want to end this. I want this night to end in, either punching someone or getting punched in the face. It doesn't make any sense to me. Yeah. So it bothered me right off the bat that I don't know. She probably didn't call me her boyfriend, but like my friend will like beat your ass or something like that. And one, there was two elements of it. One where I kind of was like, nah, guy, that's not entirely true. That's not how I feel. But also, it would have been different. The way I remember is like, I was kind of on the guy's side. Like I thought the girl I was with, I thought she was being a little over the top, and he wasn't. Like it'd been different if he was like being extremely rude to her and like touching her, being an asshole. Whatnot. That's a little bit different. Right. Then I'm probably just stepping in anyway. It was one where like they were both trying to get a drink, and like he wasn't even like being rude. She was just kind of being over the top, and I was like, I'm not being a part of this right now, and I think it's ridiculous that you're just able to just throw me in there. Like I gotta fight. I don't know what this guy's about. I don't know who this guy is. I don't know. I don't know how he fights. I don't know. I don't. Does he have weapons on him? Like I don't know any of this shit. Like why am I being dragged into this? So maybe I don't know. I have a little bit of. I've always found that kind of situation funny, where the guy's just like, I don't want to be doing this shit. Like don't volunteer me for this. So that's why I just thought it was funny. Maybe that was a situation where that guy was like, I'm tired of fighting your battles for you. You know what? You're gonna learn to fight your own battles now. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. Maybe that's what happened.
Could be.
But just in general, like how fucking weird is it? Like all these like these fans that are just constantly fighting at games. Like I don't get it. I don't understand. Listen, I think I'm the truest sense of diehard fan when it comes to the 49ers, for instance. Like, I am a diehard fan. I don't understand the idea of fighting other fans that happen to like other teams. Or even some of them, maybe we like the same team. But just like, I'm going to go to a game, I'm going to go to a bar, or just like fighting other fans makes... And I understand alcohol is probably a big part of it, and so you're not thinking, the most rationally, but... It just, I saw somebody say, like, listen, we fought to get back to this point, right? We had a whole year of sports with no fans, Right.
Yeah.
But, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we had a whole year of sports with no fans, and we all saw how much that sucked. And now we're finally back, and this is how we're acting? Like, come on, guys.
I
think
it's predictable, though. I think, like, right, like, you have a bunch of people that are cooped up. And
I guess
very excited to be in a public space with a ton of other people and the energy of an exciting sports game and alcohol and just adrenaline and you just forget how to how to cope with all these exciting forces going on.
Yeah, I think part of it is the ones where you can tell because both people are wearing the opposite jerseys, so they're different fans. I think part of it is seeped in this, people thinking they're part of the team. It's like I got to defend my team right now, and it's just so fucking stupid. The one that pissed me off, the story, if you remember the Phoenix Suns guy when they were facing the Nuggets. Did you ever see that one in the playoffs? There was this Phoenix Suns. There was a fan. It was a fight broke out between the Suns fan and the Nuggets fan. And based on the video, it looked to me like the Nuggets fan, there was two of them. They were the ones that were instigating it and completely in the wrong. And this Phoenix Suns guy just beat the shit out of both of them essentially. And like he got so praised for it. It bothered me. And like the Suns, like I think Devin Booker like bought him tickets to like one of the finals games or something like that. And he was like, "This is," and like he's now like made a career off of being like the Suns guy that like defends the Suns team. And I was like, so fucking stupid to me.
Not
like,
it,
yeah. Like I understand he was defending himself. He was not instigating it. He was defending himself. But this should not be, you know,
it's not supposed to be celebrated.
Yeah, it's not supposed to be applauded of what just happened. Like it's still ridiculous that this even transpired. So
yeah,
I don't know.
There's
it makes
have
no
you
sense to me.
watched? I just recently watched on Netflix, since we're talking about fans fighting. Did you the documentary movie
Malice
on
at the Palace?
Malice at the Palace?
Yeah, I did watch it.
You did watch it? Did you love it? I loved it.
I mean, I thought it was a really good documentary. My only problem with it, and this is off of the fans fighting part, was the Indiana Pacers players that were talking. We're doing a lot of, if my aunt had a dick, she'd be my uncle. For my liking, a lot of we would have been champions. We would have. This would have happened. That was the part I didn't really like about it. I was like, listen, you guys were a good team, and who knows what happens. I think you were definitely, you know, a championship contender. But that part bothered me. That was like, we would absolutely be the NBA champions and all this. And I was like, I don't know.
I will say
that was the only problem I had. That was the only thing I had a problem with.
Yeah, I will say I did not. And I'm not saying this to talk shit in any way. Like, I'm just saying this. You know, I didn't realize that like Jermaine O'Neal, Ron Artest, and like Steven Jackson was like ever considered like, and Reggie Miller, right? Like towards the end of his career. Yeah, like I just didn't. It never occurred to me that was like a big 3+1 or whatever you want to call it. Like I never thought of that. Like I remember Jermaine O'Neal being a force. Like I remember that. I remember. I remember that Ron Artest at one point was like, you know, was a really good player. Like I don't want to take anything away from Ron Artest, but I never thought of him as like a guy like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I guess I'm with you. Yeah, I don't know.
Because I do remember them being really good. I mean, the year before it happened, they were in the Eastern Conference Finals. I mean, against the Pistons, who ended up winning the championship. So yeah, I think they were a little bit. They were the way I always thought about them is they were a good team. They were championship contenders, but their style was just so. You know, they were basically, you know, all brute force. You know, they just had, you know, enforcer type. And I remember Ron Artest, the Pacers, being really good. And I remember Jermaine O'Neal was one of those kind of short-lived superstars that I remember for a few years. The Pacers, like he was one of those.
Peak Jermaine O'Neal was,
yeah. Like I remember in like that time period, like with him, and then you add Reggie Miller, who near the end of his career, obviously, but you know, and then they add Steven Jackson, and I was like, this is an enforcing type team. I wasn't guaranteed that they were going to be able to get past the Pistons in the East or any of the East teams, and two, that was during the time when, you know, the Lakers and the Spurs and the Mavericks with Dirk, like they were at their peak. So, you know, even if they got to the finals, who knows what happened. So them talking like we for sure were winning the finals if that doesn't happen, I thought that was a little ridiculous. And the other problem I had was the fan that came onto the floor where Ron Artest punched in the face.
That guy was hilarious.
Him calling that a sucker punch, I was like,
he called Jermaine O'Neal's a sucker punch, which is
I'm pretty sure he called Ron Artest a sucker punch.
So no, I think when he called it a sucker punch, he was talking about Jermaine O'Neal running, because Jermaine O'Neal ran in. Like I think Ron Artest punched him. He missed.
I know, that's my point.
Remember Reggie Miller? Reggie Miller called that but yeah, I guess I don't know. Either way, like I had that guy being a total dipshit. Like
Well, just specifically saying what Ron Artest did to him as a sucker punch, I wanted to address, like, a lot of people don't understand what a sucker punch is. Like, if you, like, square up on somebody and they just punch you first, that's not a sucker punch. You know? Like, a sucker punch is just out of nowhere, somebody comes to you and just, like, basically punches you in the face. Like, you weren't expecting it. Like, if you clench up your fist and are, like, ready to fight somebody.
And it's not even. And here's the other thing. Whether or not, like, so I thought it was Jermaine O'Neal. Let's say for the sake of this point that it was Jermaine O'Neal, right?
Okay.
I think his point was that, like, I didn't see him coming. Total sucker punch, right? And and listen, like, I hear you. If you're in a situation where, like, you're doing, like, you're kind of just where you're supposed to be, and, like, right. If you are a fan amongst a lot of fans going onto an NBA floor participating in a brawl, right? Particularly, right, like, you're the home crowd that's, like, brawling with the visiting team. Like there's not a lot. Yeah, like, somebody might come through and, like, protect their guy and punch you in the face. You have put yourself in a position to, like once
you're in that position, there's no such thing as a sucker punch.
Right, like
once you're in that position.
Yeah, again, bringing this back to baseball, like, if I charge the mound, right, and somebody either from the dugout or like the first baseman will do this, like, comes through and, like, blindsides me, I'm not calling that a sucker punch.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like that, like, I put myself in the position to get, blindsided. Right. I have to be more aware of my surroundings when I'm in that position. But that's not on him to, like, hey, just so you know, I'm coming to hit you now. No. But also, just like get
ready for it. Here it comes. Are you ready for it?
Right.
I'm about to punch you.
No, I'm trying to hurt you. But like the way, and I know, like, this is a documentary, so they definitely, like, showed things in the way that they wanted to show them. But, like, they like, I think it was the same guy they showed, like, right after, talking about, like, my whole face is broken. I'm gonna have to go to the hospital, and I'm gonna like, and then, like, and then it's. Some fans are so. I want to make this point. Some fans are so great. They're so great. They're wonderful people, and they show support for teams, and they root for teams, and they build their team up. And some other fans are just so, like, you just want to
punch them in the face.
Yeah, but it's because and what makes you want to punch them in the face even more is that that once you do punch them in the face, they're gonna switch and turn it into and they're gonna turn into victims. Like they're gonna be
these aren't the most honorable people in the world.
No. And I will say, and even though I hated him, I still loved the interview and the sound clips from the guy who threw the beer. Because he was so unapologetically an asshole about it, right? Like, at least, like,
I thought, like, the funniest part about that was that Ron Artest, guessed wrong on who it was, essentially, and had to run past that guy. And, like, they asked him, like, did you feel bad about stepping out of the way?
Felt relieved.
And, like, he was like, no, yeah, I was good about that. I was just like, you're just a fucking loser. Can I tell you my last thing, and then I have to go?
Yeah,
but my biggest takeaway from that documentary was also, I don't think what the Pacers did was all right. I can understand what they did, but I'm not saying it's all right. Like, they shouldn't have done that. And the fan that came on the court, I couldn't stand him, who was trying to play the victim. But by far, to me, the worst people in that whole situation was after the brawl, and they were getting everyone off the court. The people that were, like, throwing shit onto their. Well, like, that to me is just, like, I just could never. Not only can I never imagine doing it, I don't think I know anyone that I could imagine throwing, like, their belongings onto somebody's head. Like, they had a beer, like, throwing it on. I just don't understand.
If someone told me that story, like, someone told me that story later, like, my home, like, somebody that I consider, like, I think, okay, if it was, like, a really close friend, I'd probably want to sit them down and, like, have a talk, like, but, like, if it was just, like, somebody that I was, like, kind of cool with, and they're like, dude, I was at that game, dude, I poured beer on his head. Yeah. I'd be like, dude, you're a fucking loser.
Yeah. 100%. And I would say, like, we're not, and yeah, we're not tight anymore. I'm shortening my circle of who my friend. Like, I don't want to be associated with someone that does. It's just, like, the biggest loser move I could think of. Because, like we were saying, let's say Jermaine O'Neal, who's 6'9", 6'10", ripped, all that kind of stuff. Let's say he goes up into the stands, he finds someone that poured that beer on his head, and he beat the shit out of them. Like, you're gonna play the victim. Right. Like, that's ultimately, like, the biggest problem.
Why would you do that to me?
Right. Yeah. The biggest problem is obviously pouring a beer or throwing a beer at somebody. That's a problem. But, like you said, like, there's just, it'd be one thing if they're like, okay, yeah, man, like that's what I do, like, let's get it on, let's fight about this, or something like that. But it's not. It's if that person then reacts to you and they go into the stands, they do it. You're like, whoa, man, like, come on, dude, like, don't do that to me. And then they play the victim, and that to me is the biggest bullshit of this whole thing.
Yeah, and I will say that
Malice at the Palace,
and I promise this is the last thing before we wrap this up. It was how infuriating it was, and again, I know they put this together in a way that told the story how they wanted to tell it. Right, I understand this, but the clips of all the media members using the word thug,
right,
really and I because I forgot I honestly had forgotten how much that was like an acceptable thing to say. Mm-hmm. At that time, and I don't know, maybe can say how far we've come as a society that people don't say shit like that, because it was so it was you talk about
you weren't allowed on air unless you were dropping that word,
right? And
unless you were going to call them thugs, you weren't allowed to that's kind of what was going on at that time.
Yeah, and we talk about neither of us are a huge fan of cancel culture, but
right.
That shit would there's no way right. If someone was to call let's say Ja Morant a thug, right. at some point for any kind of altercation well, you
remember this happened a couple years ago. The Cavs coach John Beilein, the guy from Michigan, went to the Cavs and he had a team meeting and he called them thugs or whatnot, and he got fired.
Right.
They were like, well, also the players we're not fucking playing for you anymore. Yeah. And that was a big story. That was only I think 2 or 3 years ago, maybe 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And that was, I don't know if you remember that story, but that was a big thing, is how he could do that. And then his excuse for it was as bad as it gets. He what he meant was a different word or something. I don't know. It was a whole thing. But yeah, you're right. At that time, that was a popular thing. So that's a good takeaway, is that we've come far as a society.
Yeah. We're
and I'm sure 20 years from now, 15, 20 years from now, you look back on some of the way, stories are reported on, you'd be like, oh, wow, we've come far as a society.
I don't think that's the thing. I don't imagine that's ever going to stop.
Right.
You know what I mean? As long as humans are around, I don't think we're ever going to stop, looking back and be like, wow, I can't believe we used to say that.
And as frustrating as that can be, it's also, I think, the beautiful thing of you're constantly growing as a person, as a society, and that's a good thing. And on that note,
we are ending it there. That was wonderful. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you for listening.
Hope you have a great day now from hearing those positive words from Bennett Perry.
Some words of wisdom from Riding the Bus podcast crew.
Yeah.
Make sure to follow along Riding the Bus podcast on Instagram. Videos we post, subscribe to the YouTube channel, rate, review, all that stuff. We've been starting to get more reviews, not all of them positive, but we still appreciate the reviews. We had one that was not happy with our or maybe my or your takes on the Simone Biles one we released.
Oh, nice.
I did see
I would love to read that. Are those in the comments?
Yeah, it was in the comment. It was just one, and I would, But my point was that we appreciate all the reviews.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I haven't read it yet, but thank you so much for your criticism, whether it's constructive or not. I appreciate everybody that. Yeah.
There was nothing to work on or change. it was just criticism, not so much constructive. But that's okay. The point is that we are fans of all types of reviews, and whether you like it, whether you don't like it, let us know. And that's the only way we can grow as podcasters. Come full circle. All right. There's your podcast episode.